Folks, your Kansas City Chiefs have eked out a win against the vaunted or hated, I don't know what you want to call it, Las Vegas Raiders. It was touch and go. There are a lot of things to go over. Matt Derrick is live from the stadium. We're going to be here right now as we get into it. This is going to be a fun one. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. I know that was a tough one to watch. I totally get that. We're brought to you by BetOnline. That's where the game starts. You can get all the lines, props, and things that you need over there at BetOnline. Don't miss that, because this one would not have gone down the way that I had it planned. I certainly was close to being right there until about the middle of the third quarter. Matt Derrick's live at the stadium. Chris is here. I'm Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football. We're going to get started right away. Welcome to Chris. Sorry, I just cut you off there. Tell us where you are.
Yeah, I'm at home. I enjoyed watching this game from home, and I know we have a lot to talk about on offense and defense. But before we forget, I do want to say shout out to Matt Wright. That 59-yard field goal was phenomenal, and the pressure he was under after missing the 41-yard field goal earlier. Congratulations to him. That was a great kick. Just have to say that before we forget about it.
I figured you would.
Because there's so much other stuff to talk about.
Franchise record long, 59 yards.
Right. Yeah.
Longest kick in Arrowhead Stadium history.
It makes that pink slip on Tuesday look a whole lot harder, doesn't it? I don't know what the future is going to be. He had an up and down game, obviously overcame that. Yep. The whole team had an up and down game. I felt like, unfortunately, Matt, the thing that stands out for me the most is they showed up again underestimating their opponent, in my determination. Am I wrong?
I don't know if I can put it all on that, because I think a big part of this, you put on the Raiders for, frankly, delivering their most complete game of the season. And you see what happens when everything starts clicking for their offense. My thought going into this game was that you just don't, a lot like the Colts, you don't want to be playing the Colts when they start to figure things out. And I don't know if they necessarily did or the Chiefs just played down to their level. But tonight, I think it was a matter of the Raiders starting to figure things out. If Devontae Adams and Derek Carr get on the same page and make plays like they did tonight, and Josh Jacobs is running the football the way he is, this team's going to cause some problems for some people. And to me, it's the perfect example of the fact that the Chiefs are going to get everybody's best shot week in and week out. And it is very hard to live like that when you're getting everybody's best shot. Sometimes you're just going to have to win with your B and C games. And I think the Chiefs won certainly with what was, I think, a C effort in the first half, maybe an A half effort in the second half measures out to a B, but it wasn't their best game. But that's how you're not to win some games in this league when you're the hunted like the Chiefs are.
The hunted is the best way to put that. And I agree with you. I do think the Raiders are a better team than their record reflects. And you're right, they did give them their best game. I just can't help but feel like the fact that I didn't feel like the offense came out prepared or aggressive enough. And I can't put that all on the feet of not having one Trey Smith not in the lineup.
No, well, I don't think that was. Yeah, I don't think that was it at all either. So, talking to the offensive linemen, I mean, they agreed that they just did not come out on the same page. They thought that it took a little while before they kind of got into a rhythm. Once they did, especially in the second half, things really tightened up.
Yeah, and I think you look at what the tackles were able to do in the first quarter, and it just wasn't a game for the tackles. Both Wiley and Brown really struggled against that pass rush. Kansas City started figuring out. And I think part of what played into it in the second half and even the second quarter is they started but they started having the tight end be right at the line of scrimmage, which widened out the rush a little bit, which I think helped. They did do some chips, and I got to give credit to where credit is due on McKinnon with blitz pickups. Again, a huge night there. I think I tweeted one out earlier. His blitz pickup on, I think, Kelce's second or third TD was phenomenal. He just rolled the guy over the top of him. It was great, and he is a small dude. He ran hard tonight. I think the entire team played well after they started slow, but you start looking at what really happened in the second quarter. I really do think that horrible, horrible penalty on Chris Jones got this team fired up.
I think it did too, but Matt, I felt like the spark was really McKinnon rather than Jones' penalty. What do you think turned it for this team?
Yeah, I mean, the Jones play was a pretty big, I think dividing line. I mean, especially talking to the players in the locker room after the game, the team thought that was going to be a game-changing play because it was a turnover, and then when it turns out not to be that way, it could have at that point slipped the momentum back to the Raiders' favor, but the crowd didn't let that happen. You saw that. And so I think certainly the team felt the momentum shift. The other big momentum changer was getting that field goal. With as quickly as they had to run, was it 17 seconds that they were able to get down into field goal range? That sequence, one, getting the crowd fired up, that this team absolutely fed off of in the second half, because this crowd took over the game largely in the second half and really powered the Chiefs, especially on the defensive side. But you could just feel the momentum change. And I think you certainly saw the effort. The team and players felt that. So between that Jones play and everybody getting fired up inside the stadium, that field goal really getting the team going, it made things easier in the second half. Then you come out and you get points immediately. And then at that point, I think that the offense really found itself in a really good rhythm in the second half, and the defense kind of just did enough to get it done with a little help from the Raiders. But I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, that last minute and 7 of the first half with the play, the penalty, and the field goal was definitely a big deciding point in this game.
And they also pissed off Patrick Mahomes at some point, and I don't know exactly when that was, but watching him jaw on the sideline, you knew that he was going to be pissed off. He was going to be going for people's throats in the second half. And I really love seeing that from him, because it shows the competitive spirit he has and that he wants to go after people. Great to see from your QB and your leader.
That was the most angry I've seen a lot of guys on this team. I mean, Andy Reid, I think that's probably the most angry I've ever seen him over a call. And Chris Jones was pretty animated still after the game. I mean, everyone was very careful about criticizing the officials, and it was very evident that everyone was told in that locker room, don't criticize the officials, don't talk about the play. But Chris was pretty passionate, I mean, and pretty emotional in talking about it and feeling that, that those kind of plays and quarterback sacks probably need to be reviewed, because the way that they happen on the field and the bang nature of the play, you can't always get a good look at it. So he's very, very vocal about the idea that something needs to change as far as how the play is especially with what we saw on Sunday with Tom Brady. Something needs to change as far as how those plays are officiated and whether or not they can be reviewed by the booth in New York.
Yeah, I have to completely agree. And I do feel there was some evidence there that New York was involved after that call a lot more. We'll talk about
Carl
that.
Sheffer says they weren't, but
he's a liar.
I'll let that just go.
You let it go. I'm not going to.
I want to say really quick
that for the record.
How funny was it to watch Sheffers try to make a call against Kansas City later in the game when his voice just kind of wavered just a little bit? Just have to point that out, because I thought that was pretty phenomenal. I don't think I've ever seen a ref waver like that.
No, I fear for what might be going on. I'm not even going to go there. I had a segue that is probably not ready, because our newest sponsor, folks, I'm just going to tell you about Tommy John. They make underwear, and you can put together what I might have just said a minute ago from what that comment might have been. But sometimes when you're in a situation and you need a fresh set, something that helps you move on with your day, when maybe something's gone terribly awry on national television, Tommy John's there to help you pull that along and get everything back where it needs to be. They have all the things that you need in your undergarments to help you get through the day, including that pouch that everybody likes. I'm not going to worry about what else is going on in that fashion, but some people are fanatics, and we have the way to get you what you need. It is TommyJohn.com/lockdown right now. And you get 20% off of your first pair of what is a very unique product that I think maybe somebody that wears zebra stripes might need tonight. 20% off of TommyJohn.com/lockdown. That's TommyJohn, all one word, .com/lockdown. See the site for details. Not my best segue, but I'm doing the best that I can, because I had to switch up mid-gear. So did the Chiefs. They made second half adjustments that I think for the first time in a long time were the turning point in being able to right this ship. And I think that says something about the coaching staff. I felt like Spags was very good disguising his defense. He settled down and did the things that worked at first, come out the second half. Kudos, I think, to overpowered rookie of the night, Jalen Watson, because I felt like he fought back. Matt, what was your impression of the rookies in general, but Jalen in particular?
Yeah, I think Jalen did a really good job of having a short memory tonight and putting things behind him, and Rashad Fenton too. I mean, I think that, both of them had a couple of rough moments in the first half, and I think they settled down after that. And you certainly saw them continue to compete. And, frankly, especially the two balls to Devontae Adams, I don't know how you defend either one of those. I mean, those were just plays that you're just going to have to tip your hat to the quarterback and the receiver for making incredible plays. And I think there was a gutsy play call on fourth and short to go ahead and take the deep shot on that first touchdown. Give it to Josh McDaniels, although, knowing McDaniels, that's not always going to work. But I thought it was well executed plays, but I thought both of those guys in the defense in general did a pretty good job of bouncing back from some rough moments at times and tightening up in the second half.
Well, you watch what that 4th and 1 and play meant for this Raiders team, and I thought Carr almost missed Adams at that point, actually, on that one specific play, on that touchdown, that long touchdown pass. But he came back, and that second touchdown pass to Devontae Adams deep down the field to beat Brian Cook. That was a phenomenal throw. He put it where only the receiver could go get it, and that was a great play. You have to tip your hat on those types of plays, and they're going to have those types of plays. But as long as you can bounce back and you can respond, and that's what this Chiefs team did. And, for all we've talked about, we are now we're now over 11 minutes in. We haven't even started talking about the night that Travis Kelce had. 7 catches for 25 yards, less than 30 yards catching, and 4 touchdowns. And I really want to say really quick, Ryan, you made a point about the Raiders not being as bad as their record suggests. I agree with that from earlier. I also want to throw out negative 5 point differential in their losses for the season. So they are that close to being a much better team. But like I was saying, Travis Kelce had a phenomenal game. 7 catches, 25 yards, 4 touchdowns, most in Monday Night Football history. What can you say? I don't understand how he keeps getting that wide open. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
The thing that doesn't make sense to me is, how do you play Travis Kelce so well in the middle of the field, and then you get to the goal line and just act like he's not there anymore? I mean, I get that the Chiefs do so many things at the goal line that are going to confuse you and everything, and they had some great designs tonight, and there was a couple of throws by Mahomes that are once again just only Patrick Mahomes throws. But the Raiders did an absolutely incredible job of taking him away. They double teamed him in the middle of the field. That was forcing MVS and Juju to come up with some plays, which they did to help them move the football. But they shut him down in the middle of the field. And then at the goal line, he just turns into Superman. That was an impressive way to be able to beat that off in the way that he did and to beat the coverages. And I don't know what if the Raiders had just done the same things that they've done in the middle of the field, they probably win this game. But you treat Travis Kelce like that at the goal line, you're going to get punished for it.
And kudos for him for persevering on a night when they clearly had enough tension that Patrick couldn't go to him as often as he normally does. A lot of times veterans like that, they need that momentum to get going, to get their motor running. I thought that was a really positive sign for what I think needs to happen in the future for Kelce to play only 75 or 80% of the snaps in the future, to prepare him for longevity. 33 years old, that's the thing that stands out to me. Did this at the height, at the age where most tight ends are not only sliding, but looking at trying to stay alive in this game. That says a lot. I do want to mention as well that MVS, I thought, stepped up tonight, still had his customary drop. That's never going to go away, folks. Just take that out of your mind. It's not going anywhere. But I felt like now they had a true second and third option where they had the ability to move the ball when they had to, and it didn't have to be Travis.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it was great to see MVS. I mean, they've had a couple of games now where it's been a different guy. I mean, Juju's had a good game. MVS now. Hardman had a couple of good moments tonight, but that's what it's going to be. I mean, and this team realizes that it's going to be a different guy every night that's going to have to help out, but Travis is still going to be the guy. I mean, it's a recognition that they are always going to need Travis Kelce to be on, and it's just that he's going to need a running meet each week. This week, tonight, it was MVS, and you're right. He was one grab away, one drop away from having a 100-yard receiving game.
Yeah, and I thought MVS played very, very well. I think you saw Justin Watson get involved in the offense early. He was playing a lot early in the game. I was kind of surprised with that. Juju had a lot of targets, but not a lot of catches, so you hope they get that figured out. Sky Moore got involved late in the game. I thought I was really impressed with what they did with him late in the game to get, just some quick yardage, get the, 7 or 8 yards on a first down play to where you're setting yourself up for success on second and third down. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me is watching Mahomes throw the ball to the different wide receivers. Yes, he hit Kelce for 4 touchdowns, but some of the throws he threw to MBS and some of the throws he threw to Juju, he's starting to trust those guys, and he's throwing to them in traffic. They are not wide open plays. And if this offense can start hitting those types of plays on a regular basis, watch out, because it's going to be something that they haven't been able to do in the past.
I really like the tunnels. I think that was reluctantly released by Andy Reid. I think he was trying to hold on to that for a little bit longer, but they needed some kind of spark late. I think Sky's going to make some great yardage on that. We have to talk about the other side of the ball, as well as some things they need to improve on before this next week. As we look at how well they battled back in this ball game, there is a future. There is a next week.
And I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for football betting this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis in every game that you find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sporting and wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf. NHL is coming back as well. Head to betonline.net right now for your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Now, adjustments in the name of the game in this. And Matt, I thought they did a pretty good job this week in actually getting something done. Went to the quicker pass game to come out the second half, build on that momentum that they had gotten. They shifted down, and I thought they did a better job in the second half against the run, kind of lock that down on the defensive side. Unfortunately, they've lost Turk Wharton for the year to a torn ACL. We did hear that post game. I thought Colin Saunders stepped up in a pretty good way to kind of man that gap in the meantime. It wasn't perfect for a team that's been very good against the run, but I felt like this is one of the better run teams they're going to see. How did you feel about the way that they adjusted in the second half on the defensive side?
Yeah, they still had a little bit of leaks in the second half against the run. But you're right. I mean, hey, the Raiders clearly made running the football a priority tonight, and they were able to get that done. Now, the only, I think, negative is that the Chiefs were expecting that. I mean, they fully thought that the Raiders were going to come in here and try to establish the run, and they did that and had a pretty good night of it. So, I mean, it was hit and miss. I mean, did it improve during portions of the game? Yes. Did they still have some leaks? Yes. I'm with you. I mean, I thought that Colin Saunders played pretty good in his number of snaps that he saw. You saw a little bit more of Malik Herring actually kicking inside on a lot of those passing downs. That's something, I mean, that's not normally being prepped for, but he was pushed into that role with Tershawn Wharton going out of the game. So that was kind of an adjustment, but I thought he did pretty well kind of on the fly doing that. But yeah, I mean, especially with that Wharton, the Chiefs are going to have to come up with some depth answers. Now, they do have a depth answer on the practice squad in Danny Shelton. And the question is going to be, is it time to unleash Danny Shelton? Because that could very well be an answer to some of the problems on the ground that they had with Josh Jacobs, is having a mountain guy like that in the middle of the line.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's going to play into it this week, because they go up against the Buffalo Bills next week. So the Bills don't run the ball as much. They still do run the ball. But I do think that Danny Shelton's going to be the answer for some of those running teams down the line. My question, though, when you start looking at the defense, obviously it was very impressive what they were able to start doing with the run. But there's also something else that we're not talking about, and it's how much they played. And I'm really curious to see this when we get snap counts, how much Chris Jones played at defensive ends tonight. And I know part of that was because you got injuries with Frank Clark not being able to play, and Mike Dana was out. So I understand part of that. But Jones went out to defensive end quite a bit, and Karlaftis was actually, I saw him on the interior as a pass rusher. Just interesting to see how the Chiefs were really moving people around this week.
Yeah, and Joe Cullen's not afraid to do that. I mean, we certainly saw a lot of that during training camp, that, they would do those kinds of things. So it's certainly not a surprise, especially in passing situations. They're not afraid to mixing that up a little bit as far as, allowing guys to come from different locations and confusing some offenses. So I can see that, seeing more and more of that. I mean, especially as these guys get more and more comfortable with the scheme and with Joe Cullen's approach.
Matt, did we get any update on Frank Clark's condition? It was, I think, listed as illness by the broadcast.
Just listed as an illness, and Andy Reid said sick. So you would probably think that it's in that category of some of the things that Frank has just battled with his stomach over the years. So I didn't get any indication that it was anything more serious than that right now.
Okay. So from a front standpoint, I think they've done what they need to do. I don't think that the next couple of run games are as formidable as Jacobs has been. So that brings me to, I think maybe the guy that stood up the most that I didn't expect to have this kind of game. Your leading tackler tonight is Darius Harris, had that big play for the sack on the blitz. Like, he also was a guy that I thought had a couple of down plays, but I think his positives outweighed everything else. Is this what they have to do going forward until Willie Gay is back?
Yeah, I mean, this is what they've got, and now this is 2 games. They've been filling in for Willie Gay with double-digit tackles, and last week really didn't even get much of a chance. I think he only played about 21 snaps because they were in substitution packages so much last week, so he was kind of out of place in last week's game against the Bucs. But this is 2 really solid performances, and I think you see him and Nick Bolton kind of have that same rapport on the field that Bolton and Gay have as far as playing off of each other. You certainly at least kind of feel it from an energy standpoint. They don't miss that with Willie Gay, because I think Darius Harris has been providing that spark that they've needed. And on top of that, he's been playing with a lot of confidence and reacting really well. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo told us, I think a week or so ago, that he saw a lot of difference this year in the Darius Harris, that he thought he made a turn. And I know, talking to Darius after the game, he feels the same way. Feels very confident right now. Obviously, there's always things he's going to want to clean up, but I think this has been 2 really strong performances in the last 3 weeks from him, and I think that he and Bolton make a pretty good duo when they're on the field together.
Well, and you have one more game that Willie Gay is out. I believe he's able to come back after the Bills game, so he would be able to come back for the 49ers before their bye. But the other big piece that they could be bringing back is McDuffie. I think that's going to play a huge going forward into the next game. But looking at this game tonight, you start looking at what the pass defense did. And outside of those 2 big plays by Devontae Adams, I thought they handled themselves pretty well. You look at those defensive pass interference penalties, you're in a tough spot. I mean, you're going up against Devontae Adams, and yeah, you got to get your head around. But I thought the defense played really well outside of a couple of big plays.
Yeah, I can... Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm sorry, Matt. I'll make the angry point for you. I can let Jalen Watson pass on that, not getting his head around. Rashad Fenton knows better. That's a play he has to make. In my opinion, the fact you can count on Derek Carr underthrowing passes, you got to get your head around. Okay, I'm off my soapbox, Matt. Now you can be your normal, steady self.
Yeah, I mean, to Chris's point, I mean, outside, I'm looking at the passing chart, and I see 2 of 2 down the middle for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. You take those 2 plays out, and you're talking about Carr's 17 of 28 for 135 yards. Very, very pedestrian. Now, that said, I'll give it to the Raiders for those 2 plays. They earned them. Those were well executed and deep balls. And yeah, the pass interference penalties, you add on 45 more yards, I think, to that passing total. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, maybe that kind of balances it out a little bit. But no, I mean, I feel like that, hey, one of those penalties could certainly have gone the other way. Watson, just a turn, I think he could have gotten it. And there were plenty of people in the press box who were feeling like that the receiver pulled Watson into him rather than Watson, doing it, going it himself. So a borderline call, but to Chris's point, though, I feel like that outside of those 2 plays, pass defense wasn't bad. And the most important thing is that they seemed like they were able to bounce back from some of those big plays. And even though it was an uneven performance Monday night, it got the job done.
I think the biggest thing for me, though, really quick, Ryan, the biggest thing for me is watching that first touchdown pass that Fenton got beat on. I'm not going to give him a pass, obviously, but what I will say is you're not going to expect them taking a shot play like that on a 4th and 1 play. Not that early in the game. I understand he still should have been in position, and he was burnt badly. Carr almost missed him, and so to me, I'll give a little bit of a pass on that one. I agree with you that Ryan Fenton needs to get his head around. But that goes back to what I was talking about before. You get Trent McDuffie back, this is a different defense as well.
It's improved, but we got to remember, Karlaftis, Chanel played a lot tonight. Obviously, Watson, a lot of rookie action out there. Brian Cook, my guy. Devontae's faster than you think he is. You can't come up and bite on that. Honestly, if that play is executed a little bit with a little bit more respect for his deep speed, I don't think that even happens, to tell you the truth. So I see where you guys are coming from. I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more maturity here from a team that has to rely on this rookie class a little bit. So that said, if we take it all back, lucky to get out of this game with a win, in my opinion. How they did it, I think, will vary for it. There is some low-hanging fruit, but Matt, we're going to give you the first game ball tonight just so you can make it nice and easy.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and make it nice and easy because I don't want it to be one of these nonsense weeks where we go through and all three of us are trying to make such highfalutin game ball picks and advanced metric picks that we just leave it out there. So Travis Kelce, 4 freaking touchdowns. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, 4th tight end in history to do that. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's just one more thing to put on the Hall of Fame resume for Travis Kelce, but 4 touchdowns, I'll take it. Game ball.
Nice.
Who you got, Ryan?
I'll leave you the fun one then, because 0 interceptions, 4 touchdowns thrown, 292. He beat his PrizePicks line, by the way, folks. If you took the more, you win. Patrick had 117 passer rating. I will take Patrick Mahomes because in the end, I'm here.
Okay, well, I will. I just want to throw this out there because it was pointed out before the game. Patrick also passed Troy Aikman in the career passing touchdowns list. Just want to throw that out there. He needed 4 this week. Yeah, he needed 4 this week. He did it. Congratulations, Patrick. I know he doesn't care, but congratulations on that. This one's tough, actually. I think that there are so many players that actually had some really good games, and you start talking about the defensive backs. But to me, I think the thing that stood out at times was really the way that Spagnuolo did it. I'm going to have to give it to Spagnuolo because I think, yes, the running game was suspect, the run defense was suspect, but he started to figure it out in the second half, and he got the Raiders to do things that they weren't able to do, or that they were trying to do in the first half that they were successful with, and he was able to adjust and get to where Kansas City was able to at least slow them down and stop them at times. Get the ball back and actually score points. So I think that I have to give a game ball to Spagnuolo and not only that, but he sent the house at the right times. He was sending guys from the right places. He was sitting in the house at the right times. And, Darius Harris had a great sack, don't get me wrong, but it was all because he was sent at the exact right time. And you saw it coming. I mean, that was a play that I didn't understand why Derek Carr didn't see that blitz coming, because I saw it just sitting there waiting for it to come up. Darius Harris didn't disguise it like Snead does. He was all up at the line and looking like he was going. So I'm going to have to give it to Spagnuolo.
Well, I think Bolton come 2 plays before that, so I think he had his eye on 32 quite a bit.
Yep.
Okay, so we all take pretty obvious takes here at the game ball thing. Shout out to L'Jarius Sneed. I thought he had another great game. Matt, what are we missing? What's the bottom line for you that we have not discussed?
I mean, probably the one thing we've ignored is the fact that the Chiefs win this game because the Raiders raided quite a bit. I mean, getting called for defensive holding on a missed field goal try is something that's really, really hard to do. And they deserved a penalty. You just don't see that one called very often. You see 2 wide receivers run into each other in the game-ending play. And then there was the battle of the fourth quarter decisions, whether you go for 2 or not, or kick the football. I mean, we could do a 3-hour podcast on the coaching decisions in the fourth quarter alone.
Okay, I think we might. I have to ask you both really quick, and let's touch on that real quick. I thought Andy Reid made the right choice. I think you go for 2 in that situation because you're already up 7, and going up 2 gets you up 2 scores. What do you guys think?
I kicked the field goal because I think it's, even with Matt Wright, and if you have no faith in him, it's still a 95% chance of being up 8, and now the Raiders have to score twice. It's still essentially a 2-score game.
Yeah, I'm with Matt. I think if you can either keep him out of the end zone in the first place, or you can keep him out of the 2-point, you're going to win one of those, is my opinion. But hey, Andy,
but would you have punted there at the end?
I wouldn't have called the play that they called on 3rd down, and actually, I probably wouldn't have called the play that they called on 2nd down either.
That's a fair point, especially on 3rd down. I'm with you. I don't know if that's the play that I would have called there in that situation when a 1st down essentially wins the game.
Can we just run mesh? Can we just make it easy, please?
Well, or slant routes to Sky Moore to Jody Fortson. Pick your poison there.
It was
quite a debate. You have guys that can easily get you those.
It was quite a debate in the press box about whether they should kick the field goal or kick the punt or go for it. And my feeling was, you go for it on 4th down and don't get it, you're 1 play away from Carlson being in field goal range.
Exactly.
And I think you saw that the Raiders would have had no problem getting into field goal range.
Right.
And I think you had to rely on your surging defense at that point. Like you have to give them, they get a boost out of this ball game because Andy Reid put his faith in them.
And I realized that what we were saying is that we're going to put the game into the hands of the defense and take it out of the hands of Patrick Mahomes. But then, sometimes you got to do that.
Sometimes you have to do that, folks.
It's not what you should always do, but sometimes you have to.
You can file all of your complaints over at ChiefsDigest.com for that last comment. That's perfectly fine.
So if you're a Chiefs fan, though, you have to give a shout out to the Raiders for Raidering today.
Yeah, well, hey,
true.
They
definitely
takes
did.
two to tango. Folks, you can find all of Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com. In all jest, you can throw your hammers at me. That's fine. Hit us at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. It is late enough. I'm sure the lights are about to go out. Where Matt's at, it's after midnight. Thank you for being with us live. And Matt, thanks for all of your time.
Absolutely. And if you let me one quick personal note, you've seen it if you follow me on Twitter. But there's a GoFundMe for Art Haynes, the Chiefs radio broadcaster, to pregame and postgame host, and he's dealing with a paralysis from West Nile virus. His family's going through a lot of challenges right now with that. If you can go help out Art Haynes on the GoFundMe, you can find it on my Twitter page. But I think Chiefs fans helping him out for his 15 years of service to the team would be great thing to do.
I agree. I'll get that retweeted as well. Folks, thank you. Help that out. Help yourselves. Have a great Tuesday. A lot to talk about at the water cooler. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.